This is Fast Bible Teacher, a brief daily nugget of fresh Bible goodness from me, Pastor Frank Delala of the Savior Community Church in Rockland County, New York. I have to admit, I read Philemon verse 7 very much as a pastor, and I think I can relate a little bit, just a pinch, to what the Apostle Paul is expressing in this verse, and we'll get into it. Verse 7, he says, "For I have derived much joy and comfort from your love, my brother, because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you." So he's thankful, he's joyful because of Philemon. He says he's derived much joy. What does he derive the joy from? From Philemon's love. Not just joy, comfort. Not just joy from Philemon's love, but actually comfort. Why comfort? Why would Paul be comforted because Philemon is loving? We can understand him rejoicing in it. God's doing something beautiful in his life. God's using the guy. But why comfort? Well, I think we get an insight into this. In fact, we get an insight into a couple of things. We saw earlier, a few shows ago, Paul prays for people. He's praying for this guy. I mean, this is just one guy, right? And yet Paul's praying for him. He's led so many people to Jesus. He's established so many churches, but he remembers Philemon. He rejoices in him, but he's praying for him. And he says that he's praying for all these churches in Ephesians and Colossians and Philippians. He has beautiful prayers that he prays for the churches. You look at those letters, you get the impression, the correct impression, that Paul's an extremely prayerful man, that he doesn't just set things up and walk away and not care about them. He continues to bring them before the Lord in prayer. Now, we should be impressed by his prayer life, but I think there's something that's motivating his prayers that we need to take note of, and that is anxiety. It doesn't sound very spiritual, but it's a part of it. And we can learn from him what he does with anxiety is he doesn't carry it around, he dumps it out in prayer. 2 Corinthians 11:27, he says, in toil, hardship, he talks about all the difficulties he goes through in ministry. And then in verse 28, he tells us of another one, an emotional one. He says, and apart from other things, there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches. Who is weak and I'm not weak? Who is made to fall and I'm not indignant? So he's done all, here's this incredible tower of faith in the Apostle Paul, and he's not too spiritual to tell you that he has a daily pressure of anxiety on him because he's thinking about all these people he wishes he could directly be impacting, but he's had to set up other leaders to take care of them because his ministry is broader than that. And he just thinks about them. He hears about the problems they're going through, and it causes him anxiety. When he thinks of Philemon, he's comforted. What comforts him about Philemon? What could God do in your life that you'd be the kind of person whose actions in life actually comforts the people who are responsible for you in the Lord? Well, he spells it out in verse 7. He says, he says comfort from your love. So he's a loving guy. He's got deep love, as we said in verse 5 and 6, for Jesus and for all the saints. And he says, because the hearts of the saints have been refreshed through you. And hearts is this word that means actually means technically bowels, but it's the emotion that people have been refreshed in their innermost being through the love of Philemon. The word he uses, refreshed, it's this idea of you've gotten rest from toil, like you took a nap and now you feel better. This guy's love is like a nap for the Christian soul. He brings refreshing to the people around him. He's encouraging, he's loving, he's warm. He strengthens the believers that he's in contact with. And here's my exhortation for you, that you would pray that the Spirit of God would make you that kind of person to the believers in your life. You need believers like that in your life. If you don't have them, pray that God would lead you to them. He's blessed me with many people like that in my life who refresh my soul. If you don't have that, pray for it, seek it out. Pray for it with all your heart, but also pray that you would be that encourager in the lives of other people, that God would use you to love them, to be the embrace of God himself in the life of someone else, that their souls would be refreshed, that there would be a relief that comes to them through their relationship with you, because through you they're experiencing the love of God himself, the encouragement of God himself. Be that person in your church. the one who loves others, who's faithful and committed, who's filled with faith for what God can do in the lives of other people, instead of being graceless, without hope, easily discouraged. Be the person who says, you know what? We have every outward reason to be discouraged right now, but we have Jesus, who is an endless source of love, grace, comfort, and hope for us to be encouraged right now. For show links and notes for my Sunday Sermon podcast, and for the big show, a frank discussion with Jan Jacobs, go to fastbibleteacher.com.